The very first conversation I had in Canada with my coworker was about the stereotypes around American gun control laws. It came up as we were talking about our experiences growing up in different countries, and naturally, his thought about what I grew up in is he wanted to know if all Americans were crazy gun-loving addicts. Um, and in this stereotype, though, rather than being damaging to our friendship, was actually something that we were able to draw upon in our conversations to have a starting point from where we were able to analyze and discuss these real issues. And in this discussion, in challenging ourselves to understand these racial stereotypes and understanding these cultural stereotypes, we were able to set up a precedent in which there would be future discussions and future challenges and future analysis of what constitutes these racial stereotypes. And furthermore, it set up a basis of respect, actually, because as we were able to joke about the different cultures and the different stereotypes that we had about these cultures, we were able to come to on what were reasonable and fair assumptions and what were out of left field, as so they say. And I think that this is an experiential description of what the Soloy Zizek's theory is. He himself draws from his theory on the injurious aspects of political correctness from his own personal experience. When he meets people from other countries, or so he says in his video, he finds that it develops a natural and a more real cultural sympathy when there's a discussion that starts from the place of racial stereotypes and then acknowledging and joking about them and then coming there's a real path from there to cultural understanding, whereas he says that political correctness makes invisible any racial hatred that might exist and makes talking about it, challenging it and overcoming it extremely difficult and near impossible, simply because the language of political correctness does not allow us to discuss it. And personally, I can say that it was a real building point for our relationship with each other that allowed us to be more than just coworkers, but also friends, in being able to talk about the differences between Canadian culture and American culture, and being able to clear up questions if I was wondering when I had wonders about them joking about maple syrup or always saying sorry, and when he had questions about American obesity. And the power of humor and of making jokes about these cultural stereotypes is something that I think Lisa Donnelly's TED Talk is very informative about how it functions and how humor plays a role in allowing us to analyze these cultural stereotypes. Humor allows us to recognize the possibility that our cultural stereotypes of others may be ridiculous. At the same time, it allows us to recognize that our own cultural experiences may be something completely ridiculous and completely new to someone else. And it is fun in that sense, in recognizing that our own opinions can be something surprising and novel to other people. It removes the self-centeredness from these thoughts and from these conclusions. And that's why Donnelly said that women would create powerful comics, because they were so related to the production and the consequences of culture in whatever region, whatever culture that they live in. They would be able to best portray and best create the content that portrays culture in new ways and in unexpected ways that causes people to really critically think about it. So when my coworker made the joke about American culture really valuing gun control, I was able to understand it not as a personal attack, but as a way of him trying to understand and trying to reframe something that was entirely novel and entirely new to him. And in the process of doing it alongside with him, we were able to bond and build a relationship. From this experience and the understanding that I have of political correctness and humor from Zizek's and Donnelly's content, I feel like I can say that American political correctness is not the cultural relativism that Rosaldo analyzes and endorses in her article of Headhunters and Soldiers. Rosaldo's key analysis of cultural relativism is that it's opposed to Eurocentrism or cultural centrism in any sense. Cultural relativism recognizes that each person and their experiences are not the center of the universe, not something to judge other cultures by. It is a system of values that is open to analysis and contestation, precisely on the basis that each person is an unfinished human. In contrast, political correctness acts as a moral absolute in American culture. It defines patterns of indirectly discussing racial differences and the values of ridiculing ethnical superiority language or any ethnical discussion in general. Though it borrows from the language of cultural relativism, the two are crucially different. If the United States wants to be a culture that recognizes its own status as an unfinished culture, then it has to be ready to critique its own moral code of political correctness. Now, to be clear, I don't think that challenging political correctness is anything like what Trump advocates for. I think what his speeches are and what he deems challenging the politically correct culture of America are actually just slander campaigns against illegal immigrants, Muslims, and many other minority groups in America. And in drawing from my own experience, joking about gun control with a friend, I think what makes Trump's politically incorrect comments simply injurious rather than invoking critical thinking is that he says them in a speech, declaring them to be the truth. Whereas the point of leaving behind politically correct talk is that we can analyze, debate, and grow from really critiquing and thoughtfully coming to face with the different assumptions that we have grown up with, that we have internalized, and perhaps never seen in the perspective of a foreigner before. That's just my 2 cents that's my 2 cents on the issue of political correctness and humor and the role that humor plays in it in the American and Canadian exchange program. Thank you.